My name is Sarah Hartman. I'm 33 years old. And 3 years ago, my dad cut me out of his life with a text message, 11 words sent at 7 in the morning 2 days before my wedding. You are not my daughter anymore. Don't contact me. That's it. No phone call. No warning. Nothing. I read it twice standing in my kitchen in my pajamas with a mug of coffee going cold in my hand. 11 words. 2 days before I was supposed to walk down the aisle. And then, like a row of dominoes somebody had set up weeks in advance, everyone else fell right behind him. My mom, my younger brother Danny, 2 of my aunts, and even my cousin Rhonda, who I'd grown up with, who'd been one of my bridesmaids 2 years prior at her own sister's wedding. Every single one of them lined up and backed him. Over what? Over 5 names I didn't add to a seating chart. 5 kids I had met maybe a dozen times over 8 years. That was the whole thing. 5 seats at a dinner. But here's the part that kept me staring at the ceiling at 3 in the morning years later. My dad didn't reach back out because he had a change of heart. He didn't show up at my door because he missed his daughter. Came back because he needed something. 1 document. 1 signature. And when I finally sent him back 4 words, I am not signing, the retirement plan he had spent years quietly building around me collapsed like a lawn chair in a rainstorm. Before I get into all of that, if you are brand new here, please hit that subscribe button right now. I mean it. This story is just getting started, and you do not want to miss a single word of what comes next. And while you're at it, drop a like, it helps more people find stories like this one. Now let me take you back. Back to the summer before everything changed. Back to my grandma. Dorothy Hartman, Grandma Dot, was the kind of woman who made everyone feel like they were the most important person in whatever room she was standing in. She lived in a little brick ranch house outside Roanoke, Virginia, with a porch swing she used even in October and a vegetable garden she tended like it was a second job. She made the best biscuits I've ever tasted in my life, and I say that knowing full well there are people out there who take biscuits very seriously. She kept a candy dish on her coffee table filled with those soft peppermint candies wrapped in clear plastic wrap, and she never not once made love feel like something you had to earn. When I was 28, Grandma Dot got diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Late stage. She'd been having back pain for months and kept telling everyone it was from carrying groceries. By the time she actually went to the doctor, it had already spread. I drove down to Roanoke and stayed for almost a month. I slept in her spare room, took her to appointments, watched old westerns with her at night because that's what she liked. She barely ate. She got smaller every week in a way that was hard to look at directly. About 5 days before she passed, she grabbed my wrist. Her grip was still surprisingly firm, the kind of grip that makes you pay attention. She said, "I put something aside for you, Sara-girl. Whatever happens, don't you let anybody tell you it's theirs." I thought she meant her mother's jewelry. Or maybe the little china cabinet in the dining room that I'd always loved. I kissed her forehead and told her to rest. She passed on a Tuesday morning in late November. I was holding her hand. It was quiet and it was peaceful, and I am grateful for that every single day. I didn't find out what she really meant for almost 3 years. Let me back up and give you some context because this story doesn't make sense without it. My parents split when I was 15. It wasn't a dramatic kind of divorce. It was the slow, draining kind where 2 people had just run out of reasons to stay in the same room. My dad, Ron Hartman, moved into an apartment on the other side of Roanoke. He still showed up. He came to my school plays, helped me prep for the SAT, drove me down to see Grandma Dot on long weekends. He was strict, the kind of man who believed in rules and structure and doing things a certain way, but he was present. He was my dad. Then, when I was 22, he brought home Renata. Renata was 11 years younger than him with a big personality, a very loud laugh, and 5 kids from her previous marriage. Brandon, Cassie, Jake, Maya, and little Theo, ages 14, 11, 9, 6, and 4 when I first met them. They showed up to Thanksgiving like a full production, and just like that, my dad had a whole new family. A bigger one. A louder one. one that needed a lot. I tried. I want to be clear about that. I drove to Brandon's soccer tournaments. I babysat Maya and Theo 3 weekends so my dad and Renata could go to Nashville. I bought Jake a birthday present even though I'd met the kid 4 times. I showed up. Every single time my dad asked, I showed up, and he started counting on that. He started calling Renata's kids his kids. He wanted me to call them my siblings. He wanted Christmas morning together and Sunday dinners and birthday calls and holiday cards. I did all of it. Not because I always wanted to. If I'm being honest, it felt like a lot of work for relationships that hadn't had time to become real, but because I loved my dad and I wanted him to be happy. Problem was Renata. She was smart. I'll give her that. She never came at me directly. Not at first. She worked through my dad, feeding him little complaints over time, drip by drip. I missed Cassie's middle school graduation because I had a work trip I couldn't get out of. Renata told my dad I clearly didn't respect her children. I didn't comment on a family photo she posted online, a beach trip where, notably, I had not been invited. She told my dad I was rejecting the family. Every time I missed something, every time I had to focus on my actual life, Renata made sure my dad heard about it in the worst possible way. And my dad who believed in loyalty above everything else, who saw the world in black and white, all in or all out, started believing her version of me. Sarah, if you can't accept this family, we have a real problem. He said that to me on the phone once, his voice hard and flat. I do accept it, Dad. I just can't be at every single. He didn't let me finish. I should have seen what was coming. But I kept thinking if I was patient enough, reasonable enough, he'd eventually be reasonable back. That was my mistake. I kept expecting fairness from someone who had stopped thinking that way. My fiancé, Derek, and I got engaged the September before my wedding. We planned something personal, a farm venue outside Charlottesville, 60 guests, seated dinner, string lights, the whole thing. We paid for every penny of it ourselves. No family money, no help from anyone. Just us, working and saving and planning for a year. Our guest list was tight. 30 from Derek's side, 30 from mine. Every single seat was accounted for. I had a seating chart printed out and laminated. I am not exaggerating. 3 weeks before the wedding, my dad called. You need to add Renata's kids to the list. I was at my desk at work. I'm a marketing manager at a logistics company, not the most exciting job, but I'm good at it, and I closed my eyes before I answered. Dad, the venue caps at 60. We are at 60. Then cut somebody. I'm not cutting Derek's cousins to add 5 people I've known for 8 years but don't actually know. Those are my children, Sarah. They're Renata's children. And I already told her they were welcome at the after party. An after party? So they're second class now? That's not, Dad, we are paying for this ourselves. Every dollar. Catering contract is signed. The final count is in. Either all 5 of them come or I don't come. I sat in my car in the parking garage for 25 minutes after that call. I told myself he'd cool down. He always made big threats when he was heated. He'd call back in a day, grumble a little, show up in his good sport coat. This was just Ron Hartman being dramatic. He didn't call back. What I didn't know was that the night before he sent that text, there was a phone call. A call I found out about much later that explained everything. It was a Wednesday night, about 40 minutes before my dad sent those 11 words. My phone rang and I almost didn't pick up because I didn't recognize the number. But something made me answer. It was Renata. In 8 years, Renata and I had maybe 6 one-on-one conversations. So when I heard her voice, my stomach dropped. Sarah, I need you to understand what you're doing to this family. Renata, the venue holds 60 people. I can't. My kids are crying. Do you understand that? They feel rejected. They're invited to the after party. I explained. An after party. Like they're not good enough for the real thing. It's not about good enough. It's about a contract I signed 8 months ago. Move someone around. Cut one of your little friends. I felt something shift in my chest. Something that had been soft and patient for 8 years went hard. I am not rearranging my wedding the night before, Renata. Then I'll make sure your father knows exactly what you think of his family. She said it the way you put down a card you've been holding for years. Calm. Final. Like she'd been waiting for the right moment. I said, that's not what I... She hung up. 40 minutes later, my phone buzzed. 11 words from my dad. Renata hadn't told him about the 60-person limit. She hadn't told him about the after-party invitation. She told him his daughter had called her children second class. She handed him the story she wanted him to have, and he believed it without making a single phone call to check. That's the part one keep coming back to. He didn't even pick up the phone and ask me. 2 days before my wedding, I was at Derek's apartment, ironing a bridesmaid sash, wearing an oversized t-shirt and my favorite fuzzy socks, trying not to think too hard about the seating chart I still needed to finalize for the rehearsal dinner. My phone was on the bathroom counter. It buzzed. I read it once. Then again. Then a third time. You are not my daughter anymore. Don't contact me. I sat down on the bathroom floor. The sash was still in my hand, half-ironed, slightly steaming. I sat there with the cold tile through my socks and just stared at the words. He didn't call. He didn't give me a chance to respond. He typed 11 words and went on with his morning like he'd just sent a grocery list. 33 years. And he couldn't dial my number. Derek found me 15 minutes later. He opened the bathroom door, saw me on the floor, and his whole face changed. He didn't ask a single question. He sat down next to me on the tile, took the phone out of my hand, read it. He sat with it for a long time. Then he set it face down on the counter. We don't have to do anything about this right now, he said. I know. We're getting married in 2 days. I know. He's going to have to live with this. I leaned into him and closed my eyes. Outside, I could hear Derek's downstairs neighbor's TV going. Some cooking show. The world was just going on like normal. And then my phone started buzzing again. They came in a chain, one after another, like a signal had gone out. My mom first. Honey, your father has a point here. You really should apologize before this gets any worse. My brother Danny. Nice going, Sarah. Way to blow up the whole family 2 days before your wedding. Aunt Susan. You've always had a selfish streak, Sarah. Even when you were little. Aunt Lorraine. Those children are your family whether you accept it or not. And then my cousin Rhonda, who had asked me to do a reading at her sister's wedding, who I had gone bridesmaid dress shopping with twice, sent a single message that hit harder than all the others combined. Grandma Dot would be so disappointed in you right now. I sat on that bathroom floor and read every single one. Nobody called. Nobody said, wait, what happened? What's your side? They just lined up like they'd practiced it. Like they'd been waiting for a reason. Derek watched my face while I scrolled. Not one of them asked what actually happened, he said. No. Not one. I opened my screenshots folder and saved every message. My dad's, my mom's, Danny's, both aunts, Rhonda, all of them one by one the way I would file expense reports at work. Then I powered my phone off, put it in the nightstand drawer, and looked at myself in the mirror. I'm going to finish ironing this sash, I said. And then I'm going to take a shower. And then I'm going to get married. Rhonda had used Grandma Dot's name to shame me. She had no idea. If this story is hitting you somewhere real right now, I need you to pause for just 1 second, drop your city and your local time in the comments below. I genuinely read them. It means so much to me knowing where you all are as you listen to this. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it right now. It's free, it takes 2 seconds, and it helps this channel more than you know. The venue was a restored dairy farm about 40 minutes outside Charlottesville. String lights wrapped the wooden beams. Wildflowers in mason jars on every table. The weather came in at 68 degrees and clear, one of those October evenings that feels like a gift. Derek's side was full. His parents, his sister, his college friends, his work people, every seat taken, every face happy to be there. My side had Derek's Aunt Carol, who had basically adopted me over the 2 years Derek and I had dated. My college best friend Priya. 3 co-workers. My neighbor Mrs. Okafor, who had watched my cat when I traveled and who showed up in a beautiful blue dress and cried during the vows. And 6 empty chairs at the table reserved for my family. White napkins folded into triangles. Water glasses filled to the rim. Place cards with names nobody answered to: Ron, Linda, Danny, Susan, Lorraine, Rhonda. The venue coordinator came over during cocktail hour. She looked at the empty table, then at me, uncertain. Do you want me to remove the settings? Derek answered before I could. Leave them. He was right. Those 6 empty chairs were the most honest thing in the room. Here's the part that got me through it. Derek's dad, a retired high school principal named Gerald, a man with big hands and a quiet way of making people feel steady, he walked up to me before the ceremony started. I'd been planning to walk alone. I told the coordinator that weeks earlier and I hadn't changed my mind. Gerald said, I'd be honored to walk with you if you'll let me. I couldn't say a word. I just nodded and took his arm. We walked down that aisle together, past Derek's family, past the people who showed up, past the empty chairs with their untouched place cards. I did not look back. For our first dance, Derek and I chose a song Grandma used to hum when she worked in her garden. I never told anyone that. It was just for me and her. The end of the night, Derek held me close on the dance floor. You didn't lose a family tonight, he said. They lost you. We don't talk about that stuff every day. That's the thing people don't tell you. You get through the big dramatic thing and then life just keeps going. Quietly. Derek and I moved into a house in Crozet, a little place with a big front porch and a backyard with a fire pit that we used almost every weekend from May to November. I got promoted to senior marketing manager. Derek, who runs his own small landscaping business, picked up 3 new commercial contracts. We saved. We cooked dinner together most nights. We built something. And then Ivy came. 7 pounds, 2 ounces, born on a Friday morning in March with her dad's nose and the kind of cry that made every nurse on the floor come look. I held her against my chest in the hospital room and whispered into her hair, "Nobody is ever going to put a price on you." During those 2.5 years after the wedding, I didn't reach out to my dad. I didn't block him. Blocking felt like feeding something, and I was done feeding it. I just stopped. If he'd called to apologize, I would have answered. He never did. My mom sent 3 text messages in the entire 2.5 years. All 3 said some version of thinking about you, hope you're well. None of them mentioned the wedding. None of them contained the word sorry. I read them and closed the app. I started therapy 6 weeks after the wedding. My therapist, Dr. Nguyen, asked me during one session, what would it take for you to consider reconnecting with your father? I thought about it for a long time. A real apology, I said. The kind that doesn't come with a but attached. She wrote something down. There's a piece of this I haven't told you yet. Something that was sitting quietly in the background this whole time. About 6 months after the wedding, I got a letter in the mail from a financial services firm in Richmond. It was a yearly account statement for a retirement savings account in Dorothy Hartman's name, Grandma Dot's account. Beneficiary, Sarah S. Hartman. I read it, filed it in the cabinet under a folder labeled Important, Review Later, and went to bed. I honestly didn't think much about it. I assumed it was some kind of paperwork tied to settling her estate, something that would work itself out eventually. I didn't think about it again for almost 2 years. It came up at dinner one Sunday at Gerald and Beverly's house. Derek's parents had us over most Sunday evenings. That had become a real thing for us, a tradition I didn't know I needed. Beverly would make something from scratch, Gerald would open wine, and we'd sit around their dining room table with Ivy in her high chair smashing sweet peas with her palm like it was her life's work. I mentioned the letter offhand the way you mention background noise. Got another statement from Grandma Dot's retirement account, the one where I'm listed as the person who receives it. Gerald set his fork down. Retirement savings account? I think so. Comes every year. I just file it. Gerald had practiced estate and property law for 28 years before he retired. When he got that certain look, slower in the eyes, more deliberate, you paid attention. Sarah, when someone is specifically named to receive a retirement account, that account has strong legal protection. It doesn't go through the court process of settling an estate. Transfers directly to you the moment the account holder passed. Your grandmother chose you personally. So my dad can't touch it? Not without your signature. If he was counting on those funds as part of his retirement, he has a serious problem that he cannot solve without your cooperation. I looked at my plate. Why would he be counting on it? Grandma left it to me. Gerald picked up his fork again and cut a piece of roasted chicken. He said, very quietly, because some people treat family like a bank account they haven't needed yet. I let that sit. Filed it in the back of my brain. Didn't think about it again for another 6 months. Until my dad called. I have to stop right here. 'Cause what you're about to hear is the part that changes everything. If you're not subscribed yet, please do it right now before we go any further. And smash that like button. Seriously. Takes 1 second and it tells me you're here for this. It was a Thursday afternoon. Ivy was in her high chair working on a bowl of mashed banana with way more enthusiasm than skill. I was wiping down the counter when my phone lit up on the kitchen table. Ron Hartman. I froze. My hand stopped mid-wipe. The phone rang 5 times. I watched it until it went to voicemail. 30 seconds later, the notification appeared. I pressed play. Hey there, Sarah Bug. His voice was warm, almost gentle. He hadn't called me Sarah Bug since I was in high school. It's your dad. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about you, about everything. I miss you, sweetheart. I'd really love to talk when you get a chance. I played it twice. Then I set the phone on the counter and looked at Ivy. She had banana in her eyebrow. What do you think? I asked her. She slapped the tray. When Derek got home, I played him the voicemail in the kitchen while he took off his work boots. What do you want to do? He asked. I want to know why now. 2.5 years, Derek. He didn't call when Ivy was born. He didn't call on my birthday. He didn't call on Grandma Dot's death anniversary. And now out of nowhere he misses me? Derek set his second boot by the door. Could be genuine. Could be. But you don't think so. Genuine people don't wait 30 months and then use your childhood nickname. I didn't call back. I didn't text. I just waited. 4 days later, he called again. This time he mentioned a document. This time I picked up. Sarah, he was stumbling a little, the way you do when you've rehearsed something but the moment catches you off guard. Listen, I've had a lot of time to think and I know I handled things wrong before your wedding. I do know that. I leaned against the counter and said nothing. Let him fill the silence. And listen, there's a small paperwork thing from your grandma's estate. Just a signature, it's really nothing complicated. The financial advisor says there's something that needs to be signed off on. There it was. Tucked right in after I know I handled things wrong. Like a receipt stapled to an apology card. What paperwork, Dad? Just something with her retirement account. You're listed on it. It's just a formality to get things sorted out. Sorted out how? Just squared away. For the family. For the family. 2 words he'd been using like a master key for 20 years. I'll think about it, I said. Great. That's just great. And hey, I'd love to meet Derek properly sometime. Maybe we could do dinner. And I heard about your little one. Her name is Ivy. She's 8 months old. Silence. That's beautiful, he said. I hung up and sat at the kitchen table for a long time. The house was quiet. Ivy was napping. The late afternoon light came through the window and lit up the dust in the air. He came back for a signature, not a daughter. Within a week, my phone felt like a command center. Renata texted first, a long message, clearly written and rewritten before sending, all about how families find their way back to each other and how she'd love for her kids to meet baby Ivy and how she hoped we could put the past behind us. I searched that entire message for the word sorry. Wasn't there. My mom called. Diane hadn't called me in 2 years and now her voice was practically cheerful. Isn't it wonderful that your father is reaching out? This is your chance to heal things, honey. When I told her he'd mentioned a document, she said, well, that's probably just a small thing. The important part is he wants to reconnect. I asked if he'd called her first. She paused too long. Aunt Susan mailed an actual card. One of those greeting cards with a watercolor sunrise on the front and a printed message about new beginnings. Inside she wrote, "Life's too short. Love, Aunt Susan." Danny texted, "Dad's been really rough lately, Sarah. He just wants to know his granddaughter. Can you give him a break?" And here's the thing that told me everything. I laid it all out in my head. Renata's text on Monday, my mom's call on Wednesday, Susan's card postmarked Tuesday, Danny on Friday, all within the same 7-day window. That's not coincidence. That's a plan. Someone made calls, assigned roles, set the timing. And not a single one of them mentioned the document. They wanted me feeling warm and grateful before I even knew what I was being asked to sign. I put my phone in a drawer and went to play with my daughter. The next Sunday at Gerald and Beverly's, I brought the yearly account statement and laid it on the dining room table after dessert. "Gerald, I need help understanding something." He put on his reading glasses and studied it. Beverly took Ivy to the living room. Derek sat next to me. "This is a significant account," Gerald said, looking up over his glasses. "Your grandmother was very careful with her money. How much are we talking?" Based on this statement, approximately $260,000 depending on current market value. The number dropped into the room like a stone into still water. And my dad wants me to sign it over to him. That would be my read of the situation. If he's asking you to sign a form to remove yourself, the money would then go to the next person named on the account, which would almost certainly be him. Can he force me to sign? Absolutely not. You are the first person named. Your grandmother chose you specifically and on purpose. Without your signature, that does not change. What happens to his retirement if I don't sign? Gerald folded his hands over the paper. If your father built his retirement around accessing these funds, and based on his age and everything you've described, I believe he did, then without them, his plan falls apart. He'd face strict deadlines on withdrawing from other accounts, possible tax penalties, and a significant gap in his finances. His retirement plan, as he designed it, stops working. Derek let out a slow breath. He built his entire retirement around money that wasn't his. He assumed Sarah would hand it over when the time came, Gerald said. Because that's what she always did. I sat there and looked at the numbers on that page. $260,000. Grandma Dot's life savings. She sat in her living room with an oxygen tube and a blanket on her knees, and she squeezed my hand and told me not to let anyone claim what was mine. She knew. She knew exactly what she was doing. Against my better judgment, and I'll be honest with you, I went back and forth on this for weeks. I agreed to let my dad come to Ivy's first birthday party. Part of me genuinely wanted to see if he could walk through my front door and just be a grandfather. Just be a regular person with no envelope in his jacket. Maybe I was giving him a chance. Maybe I was testing him. Probably both. We set it up as a casual backyard thing. Derek hung some streamers. I ordered a little smash cake from the bakery on Main Street with Ivy written in pink buttercream. Maybe 20 people, Derek's family, our neighbors, a few close friends. Our neighbor Tom, a retired contractor who had sort of become our unofficial handyman and emergency babysitter, was there with his wife Carol. I'd invited them specifically because having calm, steady people around felt like protection. My dad and Renata showed up together. So did my mom, Danny, Aunt Susan, and Aunt Lorraine. They arrived in 2 cars within 10 minutes of each other. Like a group that had planned it. I opened the door and I thought, this is deliberate. The first hour was fine. My dad held Ivy with the careful energy of someone handling something valuable he hadn't held before. Renata took photos on her phone. Danny ate a lot of chips. The aunts talked to Beverly about her garden. And then, right before we brought out the cake, my dad stood up. He actually tapped his cup with a fork. Like a toast. The backyard got quiet. I just want to say how proud I am of my daughter, he started, his voice carrying across the yard. And how grateful I am that we're all here together today. Family is everything. Renata nodded. My mom pressed her fingers to her lips. The aunts smiled. I believe in second chances, he continued. And I hope today is a new beginning for all of us, the whole family together and whole. He looked right at me across the yard. Sarah, I know you'll do the right thing. A few of Derek's friends clapped politely. They had no idea what was happening. They just saw a dad giving a toast. My dad reached into his jacket and pulled out a brown envelope. He set it on the picnic table in front of me, right next to the paper plates and the little stack of birthday napkins with pink balloons on them. Just a quick signature, sweetheart. Then we can all move forward. Every single person in that yard was looking at me. Gerald, Beverly, Tom and Carol, Derek's co-workers, people who loved us and had no idea there was a loaded moment sitting in a brown envelope. They saw a father handing his daughter something important and they waited to see what she would do. I looked at the envelope. I looked at my dad. I looked at Ivy, balanced on Derek's hip, grabbing at a red balloon string with both hands, completely unbothered, completely happy. My father's expression was warm and sure of himself. He had set this up perfectly. A public moment, people watching, the language of making up hanging in the air. He believed I wouldn't say no in front of everyone. He had been betting on that his entire life. Not here, I said. My voice was steady and even. Not today. This is my daughter's birthday. My dad smiled and picked the envelope up like it was nothing. Of course. We'll set something up. But I was watching Renata. Her expression slipped for exactly half a second. She leaned over to my mom and said, just loud enough, I told you she'd stall. I heard every word. I didn't react. I picked up the cake knife and cut Ivy's birthday cake into clean squares and put a piece in front of every single person at that table, including my father. Cake? I said, and held out his plate. He took it. He didn't have a choice. Derek caught my eye across the yard. He gave me a small nod, the kind that didn't need any words. That envelope sat in my father's jacket pocket like a match that hadn't found anything to burn. The rest of the party went on. Ivy smashed cake into her own face. People sang. Tom made everyone laugh with a story about a raccoon that had gotten into his shed. And when it was over and everyone had gone home and Derek was putting Ivy down for her nap, I sat at the kitchen table and pulled up the photo I had taken of the document when my dad had gone to the bathroom near the end of the party. I'm a planner. I document things. Always have. Sunday morning, I drove to Gerald's house with the photo on my screen. Gerald studied it at his desk, reading glasses low, coffee cooling next to his elbow. It's a form to give up your rights as the named person on the account, he said. If you sign this, you voluntarily walk away from your status as first in line. The money passes to the next person named, which would be your dad. He'd folded into his own retirement. Based on his age and everything you've described, this account is the foundation of his entire financial plan. And if I don't sign, the money stays designated to you. He has no legal way to redirect it, no way to make you. Without this account, his retirement plan has a hole in it that he cannot fill. I leaned back in the chair and stared at the ceiling. He built his entire future around money my grandmother left specifically to me, I said, without ever asking me. And then he disowned me. Gerald just looked at me. He didn't need to say anything else. I didn't decide right away. I sat with it for 3 days. I went back and forth. If I signed, my dad would get the money and the warmth would disappear overnight. The Sara-bug, the sweetheart, the I miss you, all of it would vanish the second the deposit went through. But the pressure would stop. He'd leave me alone. If I didn't sign, I'd become the story. Not Ron built his future around money that wasn't his. It would be Sara destroyed her father's retirement out of spite. Derek brought me a cup of tea on the back porch one night and sat with me for a while. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you," he said. "I know. No pressure from me. I know that too." He went inside. I stayed in the dark and watched the fireflies in the yard. I thought about Grandma Dot's hand squeezing mine. "Don't let anyone tell you it belongs to them." I thought about 11 words on a screen. 2.5 years of nothing. A brown envelope next to my daughter's birthday cake. And I thought about 29 years of saying yes. 29 years of showing up, driving hours, buying gifts I stretched my budget for, saying yes every time, rearranging my life every time, being reliable every single time. And the one time I said no, the one time I drew a line around my own wedding, he erased me with a text message. I finished my tea. "I'm not signing," I said to the dark yard. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want his retirement to fall apart. I just didn't want to be the person who always folded anymore. My dad's lawyer set up a meeting at his downtown office for a Tuesday morning. He called me the night before to confirm, his voice warm and confident, already talking about where we'd go to lunch after. "I'll let you know," I said. Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. I was at home. Ivy was in her activity jumper going to town on the bouncy toys. Coffee maker beeped. I poured a cup, sat down at the kitchen table and listened to the house. My phone buzzed at 10:08. "We're here." "Where are you?" I took a sip of coffee. 10:11, another buzz. "Sara?" 10:14, a call I let roll to voicemail. 10:17, "Renata, your father is sitting here. Please don't do this." 10:20, my dad again, "We're all waiting." I could picture it. The 3 of them in that conference room. My dad in his button-up. Renata with her purse in her lap and her jaw set. The lawyer with papers spread out on the table and a pen laid precisely at the signature line. They'd rehearsed this. They'd driven 45 minutes. They'd blocked out the whole morning. And they were waiting for me to walk through that door because in every version of every story they'd ever told themselves about me, I always walked through the door. I picked up my phone. In the text thread. Typed 4 words. "I am not signing." Hit send. Set the phone on the counter. Went back to my coffee. I know what happened next because Danny told me later. Not to help me, just because he couldn't keep it inside. He'd been in the waiting room, there to provide what I can only assume was supposed to be moral support for my dad. My dad read the message. His face didn't change at first. He just stared at the screen like the words were in a language he didn't speak. Renata leaned over. "What did she say?" He turned the phone toward her. She read it, looked at the lawyer, looked back at my dad. "That's it? 4 words?" The lawyer looked at the screen, closed the folder on the table, and clicked his pen shut. "Without her signature, Mr. Hartman, we cannot move forward. The account stays in her name." My dad called me. I didn't answer. He called again. Voicemail. A 3rd time. Voicemail. Then a text, "Sara, please. This is serious." I read it with Ivy chewing on her teething ring in my lap. I set the phone down. 3 more messages over the next hour, each one getting more desperate. "Can we please just talk about this? I'm your father. You will regret this." I did not respond to a single one. He disowned me with 11 words. I answered with 4. I still think that was generous. The financial consequences were quick and straightforward. Without my signature, the retirement account remained in my name. My dad had built his entire retirement around drawing from that account at age 61. He was 59. His plan was a three-legged stool, a small pension from the manufacturing plant where he'd worked for years, some Social Security, and $260,000 from Grandma Dot's account. Remove one leg and the stool doesn't wobble, it collapses. His financial advisor told him he'd need to work at least 6 more years to make up the gap. 6 years at a plant that had already cut back his department once. 6 years at 59 with a bad shoulder and knees that ached every morning. He went back to work the following week, not to his old position, that had been filled by someone else. He took a line supervisor role, lower pay, longer hours, reporting to a guy 15 years younger with a management degree and a habit of sending emails at midnight. Renata did not take this well. She had married my father with a specific picture of the future in her mind. He'd talked about retiring early for years, travel, a lake house maybe someday, no more alarm clocks. That future now had a 6 more years footnote attached to it, and Renata had not signed up for that. Danny told me that she said to my dad one night, "If you hadn't sent that text, none of this would have happened." And my dad said, "You told me to send it." And Renata said, "I told you to talk to her. You chose to burn it down." Interesting, isn't it? The same woman who whispered I told you she'd stall at my daughter's birthday party was now rewriting history at the dinner table. She wanted a version where she was reasonable and my dad was the one who ruined everything. I don't take pleasure in any of that. I want you to know that. I don't celebrate my dad standing on a factory floor at 59. But I also didn't create any of it. He sent that text. Renata lit the match. I just stopped putting out their fires. My mom felt it next. My dad had been covering her health insurance since the divorce, not as formal support but as a quiet arrangement they'd kept for years. She didn't ask for much, he covered her premiums. When the money pressure hit, he canceled it with a letter. No call. No conversation. My mom got a notice from the insurance company on a Thursday morning saying her coverage was ended. She was 56. She had high blood pressure and a thyroid issue and no employer health plan. Insurance on her own at her age and health profile was over $800 a month. 3 weeks later, she texted me 4 words. I should have stayed. I read it on the floor of Ivy's nursery while my daughter slept in her crib. I read it 3 times. I didn't respond, not because I wanted her to hurt, but because I wasn't ready. An apology that only arrives after the consequences is not the same as an apology that costs something. Danny's situation fell apart fast. My dad had been co-signing Danny's car loan and helping cover his apartment because Danny had never quite gotten on his feet financially. When the money got tight, Ron stopped. Just like that. Danny found himself at 27 standing in a studio apartment in Waynesboro trying to figure out how to pay rent for the first time in his actual adult life. He called me in January. "Sarah, I need to tell you something." "Okay." "I'm sorry." He didn't follow it with a but. He didn't turn it into a request. He just let it sit there. "I knew what Dad did before your wedding was wrong. I went along with it because he was paying my bills and I didn't want to make it uncomfortable. That's not an excuse. That's just the truth." I was quiet for a moment. "I appreciate that, Danny. I'm not asking you to fix anything. I just needed you to hear it from me. I hear it. And I'm sorry for what I said. Way to blow up the whole family. That was wrong. I should have been there." "Yeah, you should have." Silence. His heater kicked on in the background. "Can I meet Ivy sometime?" he asked. "Not with Dad. Not with anyone. Just me." I looked at my daughter, who was currently trying to eat a sock. "Give me a little time," I said. "But yeah, I think so." He hung up, and it was the first time in 3 years that someone from my family had apologized without asking me for something in return. About a month later, my dad called one more time. It was late, past 9. Ivy was asleep. Derek was watching basketball. I was folding laundry on the bed. Ron Hartman. I picked up. Sarah. His voice was different. Tripped down. No nickname, no warmth, no pitch. Just a tired man. I made a mistake, he said. I shouldn't have sent that text before your wedding. Which text? I said. The one where you disowned me or the one about the document? Silence. Long enough that I heard the dryer beep down the hall. Both, he said. I leaned against the headboard and looked at the ceiling. Then you understand why I can't give you that signature. I'm your father, Sarah. You chose not to be. For 2.5 years you chose Renata's version of events over a 30-second phone call to your own daughter. You let Mom and Danny and both aunts pile on without correcting a single one of them. And then you came back, not because you missed your daughter but because you needed her name on a piece of paper. He didn't argue. He just breathed. I hope you figure out the retirement thing, Dad. I genuinely do. But I'm not your backup plan. Sarah. Good night, Dad. I hung up and sat there for a moment. Derek appeared in the doorway. Was that him? Yeah. You okay? I folded a dish towel, lined up the edges, and set it on the stack. Yeah, I said. I think I am. Grandma Dot's money is sitting in an account in my name, growing, untouched. I haven't withdrawn a single dollar. I decided a while back that it's Ivy's college fund. The woman who made her porch swing creak on October evenings and grew tomatoes she gave away in paper bags and called everyone sweetheart, she's going to pay for her great-granddaughter's education. That feels right. That feels like something she'd love. I don't talk to my dad. I don't hate him. I don't want bad things to happen to him. I just don't have space for someone in my life who only sees me as a resource. Maybe that changes someday. I honestly don't know. Renata and I have exchanged 0 words since the birthday party. That arrangement seems to be working for both of us. My mom and I are in something I describe as a slow thaw. Her text sits in my phone like a seed I haven't decided whether to plant yet. She's called twice since then. I picked up once. We talked for 11 minutes about nothing in particular, the weather, Ivy's new words, a recipe she'd tried. It was awkward and careful and not quite real yet, but it was something. I'm letting it be something slowly. Danny and I have been texting. He met Ivy a few months after his apology. He showed up with a stuffed bear and was so nervous his hands were shaking, and Ivy looked at him for about 15 seconds and then held her arms up like she'd known him her whole life. He cried. I pretended not to notice. The aunts went quiet. All of them, Susan, Lorraine, and Rhonda. Nothing. No calls, no cards, no watercolor sunrises about forgiveness. I didn't chase them. I didn't need to. The truth has a way of traveling in small towns and through church dinners and grocery store parking lots, and eventually the version of me they'd built in their heads, the selfish one, the difficult one, the one Grandma Dot would be disappointed in, started not matching up with the story people were actually telling. Grandma Dot had left her retirement savings specifically to me. On purpose. Intentionally. She hadn't forgotten to update it. She'd made a decision. And once people understood that, the whole story shifted. Today is a Sunday. It's late afternoon and the light is doing that thing it does in October in Virginia, that low golden angle that makes everything look like a painting. Ivy is in the backyard chasing a leaf. Just one specific leaf. She has been chasing this leaf for 10 minutes with a focus that is honestly inspiring. Derek is on the porch with a beer, watching her and laughing every time she almost gets it and doesn't. Gerald and Beverly are coming over in an hour. Gerald is bringing his famous potato salad. Beverly texted me this morning a photo of a pie she baked. Just because she felt like it. This is my family now. It's not the biggest one. It's not the loudest one. But every single person who will be sitting in this yard tonight chose to show up. Nobody was guilt. Nobody was pressured. Nobody pulled up in a car with a brown envelope. Ivy finally catches the leaf. She holds it up with both hands and shrieks with joy. Derek gives her a standing ovation. I sit on the porch step and watch her toddle over to me, leaf still in her fist, grinning. "You got it," I tell her. She drops it in my lap like a prize. "You know what Grandma used to say?" I whisper into her hair. She looks up at me with her dad's nose and her great-grandmother's stubbornness. She used to say that no is a complete sentence. Ivy pats my cheek with her little palm. She has no idea what I'm talking about. But someday she will. Someday I'll teach her that she's allowed to draw a line and not apologize for it. That she can love someone and still refuse them. That the people who only reach out when they need something aren't offering love, they're sending an invoice. My name is Sarah Hartman. I'm 33 years old. I sent 4 words to my father on a Tuesday morning and his retirement plan fell apart. But I didn't say them to hurt him. I said them because for the first time in my life I meant them. And meaning something is not the same as being cruel. It just looks that way to people who were counting on you to stay quiet. Grandma knew what she was doing when she left that account to me. She wasn't just protecting my finances. She was protecting my right to say no without it costing me everything. She valued me enough to make sure I had something solid to stand on. That's the thing about the people who really love you. They don't show up with paperwork. They show up with potato salad. They sit on your porch and watch your kid chase leaves and they don't ask for a single thing in return. If this story hit you somewhere real, if you've been Sarah in someone else's story, if you've had someone come back only when they needed something, if you've been the person who always said yes until one day you just couldn't anymore, I want to hear from you. Drop your city and your local time in the comments right now. Tell me where in the world you're listening from. It means everything to me. And if you know someone who needs to hear that they are allowed to say no, to actually mean it, to not fold, to not apologize, please share this video with them. Right now. Just send it. That one share could change everything for someone who needs permission to stand their ground. If this story moved you, hit that like button. It helps more people find this channel and hear stories like Sarah's. And if you are not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a story. We put out new stories every week and I promise you they are worth staying for. I'm glad you were here for this one. I'll see you in the next story.